by Councilman Bill Dangler for matching this generous grant from the state. So with that, Governor Murphy, again, I truly appreciate you for making this announcement here in Long Branch today and for caring so much about the future of our libraries and for all you do every day for the people of New Jersey. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Thank you, John. Give me 1 second here to... Whoa, loose ball. Back up to 2 masks, Eric. Unbelievable. Hello, everybody. Great to be in Long Branch. Great to be in my home county of Monmouth County. Huge thanks to Mayor John Pallone. John, thank you for welcoming us so graciously to not just Long Branch, but to this iconic library, to you, the First Lady, to Bill and the members of council, the library trustees, distinguished folks here. Great to have you. Eric Hoteling, bless you, buddy. Great to be with you as always. Tonya, where'd Tonya go? She's over to Frank's left. Long Branch Library Director and your staff and the trustees. I know we're going to hear from you in a few minutes. I also want to acknowledge the state's librarian, Jen Nelson, whose leadership in the grants we are announcing today has been invaluable. Thank you, Jen. Eric Brophy is with us, and I shout out Eric because he's the Executive Director of the Educational Facilities Authority, and they were extremely helpful in getting both the bond and grant processes into the end zone. So Eric, to you and your team, thank you. And we're also joined by not just any congressman, the chairman and my congressman, Frank Pallone, who is one of the greatest fighters for our states and communities in Washington. And Frank, on this day especially, we are honored to have you. As we think back to the shameful scene that unfolded in the United States Capitol 1 year ago today, we are grateful that you and your colleagues were not only able to remain safe, but that you were able to complete your constitutional duties in certifying the results of a fair election. I can only say that perhaps had more people spent more time in libraries and less time online or listening to talking heads on television, our democracy would not be facing the very existential threats it is today. I don't have the exact quote, but I believe President Biden said this morning, you don't just love your country when you win. And boy, that is a hugely powerful statement. So Frank, thank you to you and your colleagues. John mentioned Senator Vin Gopal. I want to give him a shout out in absentia and look forward to continuing partnership on behalf of families and communities in Monmouth County and our state. And I want to say I mentioned Eric. Vin, Eric, and Joanne Downey have been an extraordinary force in the 11th Legislative District. And so Eric, to you as a representative of those three today, hats off to you and to all the brothers and sisters in organized labor in this district and in this state. Before we jump in, COVID continues to rage. It's almost unfathomable. Today we're announcing 27,404 positive cases. We're literally breaking records every day. And with the heaviest of hearts, the highest number of folks confirmed to have passed today in a long time, 106 people. 5,598 in our hospitals, of whom 746 are in the ICU units and 378 are on ventilators. Yesterday alone, 933 people went into the hospital. Good news is 858 people walked out of the hospital alive. But the spot positivity rate, you ready for this? Just a hair under 40%. Just think about that. Almost 4 in 10 people are getting tested, are testing positive. I tested negative again this morning. The rate of transmission has started to come a little bit. I was on with CDC Director Walensky the other day and some other senior national folks. They're hoping this fever begins to break in a matter of days. Please God, that's the case. The RT coming down a hair, maybe, and I only say maybe the first sense of that. So I say all that because that's the context in which we're having this discussion today. And as Jen knows and Eric and others know, part of the reason why this has taken so long is in fact our battle against COVID. We put a significant amount of money on the street already. This is the second tranche. But, and by the way, better late than never. So again, let's get back to why we're here today. Again, it's to announce the second round of investments we're prepared to make in our state's libraries through the Library Construction Bond Act that voters approved in November of 2017. And I will always and forever remain proud that I was on the ballot with that referendum. The improvements that will be supported by this next round of just over $37 million range from new technologies to keep our libraries relevant to our library buildings themselves to ensure that they stay open and accessible to all, among numerous other projects. Investing in our libraries is just as critical as investing in our schools, in our cities and towns, or in our families. The library is where the concept of lifetime learning comes to fruition, where the spirit of community is celebrated and where families come together. There are few purer family outings than a trip to the library. And let it not be forgotten that every dollar we as a state provide to support our libraries is a dollar that does not have to come from the pockets of property tax payers. John mentioned it was $30,000 in 1917. I think only fitting that this is 100 times, over 100 times more money, $3.1 million into the Long Branch Library alone. So all around, this is a very good day. There's really not much else to say, which given the temperature is probably welcomed by all of you. But before I turn things over to the chairman and my Congressman, Frank Pallone, allow me to leave you with the thoughts of two noted Americans, the poet and author Maya Angelou and President Dwight David Eisenhower. They came from starkly different backgrounds and rose to greatness through very different paths. But in their thoughts on the impact a library has on life of a community and its residents, they follow the same North Star. So let me start with Maya Angelou. She said, information helps you to see that you're not alone, that there's somebody in Mississippi and somebody in Tokyo who've all been happy. So the library helps you to see not only that you are not alone, but that you're not really any different from everyone else. Pretty powerful. And it was President Eisenhower who was giving the commencement address, I believe, to Dartmouth College in 1953, who gave us our mission, if you will. And I quote the president, "Don't join the book burners. Don't think you are going to conceal faults by concealing evidence that they ever existed. Don't be afraid to go in your library and read every book." How powerful is that? Spoken those so many years ago. With all that we see across our nation, let's remember the central role libraries play in our democracy, in our communities, and in our shared humanity. The investments we announced today, which I will formalize once the legislature puts them on my desk on Monday, will ensure that role continues. And by the way, in absentia, I want to give Senator Jim Beach and Assemblyman Rob Karabinchak, who are both leaders on this, a shout out. So thanks to each and every one of you, and thank you to Long Branch, beginning with Mayor John Pallone, for always so graciously welcoming us. I look forward, John, to a nice stroll on the boardwalk, maybe in 5 or 6 months from now, with a lot less clothing on, and enjoying the Long Branch that I know of the summer months. But it's great to be here on this January day. Again, it is now my pleasure to ask to come on up a great leader on behalf of our state, on behalf of our country, my Congressman, the chairman, dear friend, Congressman Frank Pallone.
Thank you, Governor, and I'll try to be brief because I know it is cold and I know, everyone has other things to do. But I really want, let me just start by thanking the Governor not only for being here and that all he does with libraries and education, and Tammy, too, the First Lady, has always been out front on all the education issues and trying to help kids. And I know that they're a team. But I do appreciate what you said about today and the commemoration that's happening in Washington today on January because of the assault on the Capitol on January 6th of last year. And what you said about the connection between libraries is actually true. I hadn't thought about it until you mentioned it, but it's really true. I mean, I do believe, as you said, that if people are educated and they have an opportunity to learn about history and the importance of our democracy, that we wouldn't have the use of violence to try to threaten our democracy. So there is a link between libraries and democracy. There really is. So thank you for that. But I wanted to just briefly thank not only the governor, but everyone. Tanya is here, and I saw that the state librarian is here as well. many people, yeah, I have to emphasize, this bond referendum was voted on by the people, right? And that's important because it's an exercise of democracy that people voted for this bond issue and made this possible. And I know that the state librarian and Tanya and the library board, Rob Ferragino is the president, a lot of the other members of the board are here. We're very much involved in trying to get voters to support the referendum at the time, because it's always tough to get these things passed. And I remember, Tanya, so many times when you would call up and say, how do we get people out to vote for this thing? Of course, I wanted to get people to vote anyway because it was an election. But, people forget a lot of times that they got to go over to the bond issues. And it was very successful. I mean, I maybe she could mention it, but I think the numbers in Long Branch were really good in terms of the number of people that voted for it. And of course, that was true statewide as well. So I did want to mention that. I also want to mention our state legislators. As the governor said, this still has to, I guess, I don't know if the bill passed or not that approved it, but it still has to be signed into law. And Vin and Eric and Joanne and the governor mentioned Eric Brophy also were so much involved. But what I wanted to mention specifically today is one of the things that Tanya and the libraries around the country have been involved with on a federal level, because there's a little federal aspect to this maybe, and that is this emergency connectivity fund. The governor talked about COVID, and this library and so many play a role. I mean, you have the vaccines, Tanya, for the kids, right? The pediatric vaccines that actually take place in the basement of the library. But at the same time, during COVID, the libraries were so important, right, and continue to be, because a lot of kids were at home and they didn't have computers and they didn't have access, to do their homework and all that. And so we had this emergency connectivity fund, which gave money to libraries so that they could help during COVID to connect kids with the schools and with the library. And again, Tanya, the library board, played a major role. You were able to get that money. You've been using that money. But the infrastructure, which is what this is all about, is important, because one of the things that they're doing here, and I know this is true throughout the state, I'm not just talking about Long Branch, is they're reconfiguring the space, if you will, or expanding the space so that more people can use the computers, right? And so if you don't have that infrastructure that comes from the library bond, then that money that's used for the connectivity, which we were involved with at the federal level, really is of no value. So the thing that's really great, if we can use Long Branch as an example, is more access to end the digital divide, more help during COVID for health and screening purposes, more services for people that are looking for jobs, which is so important now with the economy and the aftermath of COVID. And all this just comes together, and that's why we're really so happy about what's happened here and throughout the state with this library fund. It truly is, as the governor said, an exercise in democracy with the bond issue, but also a way of trying to make it easier for people to access information, which, as the governor said, is so important in our democracy. So thank you so much. I don't know, who am I supposed to introduce? Tanya? Well, I already said everything about you, Tanya, but come on up.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to first thank Governor Murphy, Congressman Pallone, Senator Gopal for supporting this act and for their continuous support of New Jersey libraries. I'd also like to thank the New Jersey Library Association, who worked so tirelessly to have this legislation passed, and previous director, Pat Tumulty of NJLA. As the mayor said, in 1919, the Long Branch Free Public Library was said to be the last Carnegie Library built in the state of New Jersey, with funds awarded by Andrew Carnegie and the Carnegie Foundation. Here we stand just yards away from the original portion of the Carnegie building, with funds awarded by the New Jersey State Library and a matching grant by the city of Long Branch. We look forward to a newly renovated building that will allow us to expand in ways never imagined. I believe that no matter how innovative an idea is, without a supportive board, mayor, council, staff, and community, ideas would remain just that, ideas. So in closing, I'd like to thank Mayor John Pallone, our entire city council, the Long Branch Free Public Library Board of Trustees, and our talented staff for believing in this vision. But lastly, and mostly important, I'd like to thank the community. the voters of Long Branch who voted in the majority for this referendum. Librarians and libraries are beacons of hope, and we're institutes of knowledge, resource centers, community anchors, where no matter your race, religion, political party, gender, sexual orientation, or economic status, you will receive access to accurate information. As I enter my 19th year here at the library, it's long been my dream to have this building renovated and restored to its Carnegie origins. With a fully functioning building, we'll be able to continue our efforts and meet the city's needs for generations to come. What we plan to do is we plan to restore the original Carnegie portion, have an open floor plan, have access to more technology and computers, a new and upgraded resource center, and so much more. So again, I'd like to thank everyone for their support on this bill. And with that, I will introduce or bring up again Governor Murphy. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. I think, as they say in Hollywood, it's a wrap. I will say this, Frank, I'm going to sign an executive order today that will forgive you and forgive the fines you owe on those 3 overdue books since 1967. Just kidding, folks. That was fake news. Frank, bless you, Tanya, John, First Lady, members of council, Eric, Jen, you do great work at the state level, the trustees, the staff of the library, Eric and your team, to each and every one of you. What a treat to be in Long Branch. I love being here, rain or shine, winter or summer. This is a great day for libraries. I think sometimes in society, human behavior overcorrects and then it finds its way back to a norm. And I think we've gone way deep into online, electronic stuff, and I have a feeling we're going to see a renaissance because with days like today, libraries will be able to meet the moment even more so, with more strength, more vigor, and get back to a very much of a happy medium, which is where I think we are as a society and as a country best suited. God bless y'all. Take care.